Who thought to invent a flying machine? Although the books say the Wright brothers invented the airplane, the facts are very different. Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright, known as the Wright brothers, are considered to have invented the airplane. Have you ever heard of the name Alberto Santos Dumont? According to many, the inventor of the airplane is Santos Dumont. So what's the truth? Who invented the airplane? Let's take a closer look at the historical journey of the invention of the airplane. An old-style single-engine airplane was flown at the opening ceremony of the Olympics held in Rio, Brazil, in 2016, and Brazilian Alberto Santos Dumont was named as the inventor of the airplane. How? Didn't the American Orville Wright and Wilbur Wright, the so-called Wright brothers, invent the airplane? If you ask who invented the airplane today, Americans will give a different answer, European and Latin Americans will give a different answer. It's a bit more complicated than the Edison-Tesla thing because it's the definition of the airplane that's being discussed at this point. Some experts say that the Wright brothers did not produce a flying vehicle on their own, but Santos Dumont made the first non-supported aircraft. By the way, there is also the name Gustav Whitehead, which makes a mess. Let's try to answer the question of who invented the airplane. Orville Wright, known as the Wright brothers, were aviator brothers who lived between 1878 and 1948, and Wilbur Wright between 1867 and 1912. The plane, built by the Wright brothers, took off for the first time on December 17, 1903, at 10:35 a.m. near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, United States. The Wright brothers' plane stayed in the air for 12 seconds on the first try and covered a distance of 37 meters. The Wright brothers are considered to be the inventors of the first powered airplane, as this two-propeller airplane remained in the air even for a short time. However, not everyone accepted this situation because this flight was always seen as a bit suspicious. Brazilian Alberto Santos Dumont, who lived between 1873 and 1932, devoted himself to aviation and spent most of his life in Paris, the capital of France. Before airplanes were around, Santos Dumont began exploring the sky by inventing hot air balloons and early zeppelins. When the calendar showed the date October 23, 1906, he flew the first powered airplane, named 14 bis, approved by the Aero Club de France and the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. 14 bis took off about 5 meters from the ground and covered a distance of about 60 meters. It was even awarded the Deutsche Archdeacon Award, being considered the first aircraft to fly longer than 25 meters. As you can see, the Wright brothers flew from Santos Dumont years ago and even stayed in the air for a long time. So, what is the problem? The problem is that no one saw the Wright brothers' first attempt. Santos Dumont, on the other hand, made this experiment publicly and announced to everyone that he was the inventor of the airplane. Brazilian physicist Enrique Lins de Barros says the Wright brothers' plane did not fly, only a long-distance jump. According to Brazilian experts, the Wright brothers' plane took off with the help of a rail, catapult, or incline. In other words, they say that it is not possible to talk about a flying machine on its own. The plane, built by Santos Dumont, took off on its own, hovered for the scheduled time and landed in a controlled manner. The Wright brothers' plane somehow took off, glided, and somehow landed. Washington National Air and Space Museum Aviation Department head Peter Jacob denies these claims and says that an airplane that stays in the air for close to a minute cannot achieve this success without its own power. Gustav Whitehead, 1874 foot 10 1927 Ye Kater Yosamis Elmana Silai Bur Americaliti. Whitehead Hayati Boyunka Motorlari, Planorlari ve Burkok Farkly Yukon McKinney Icat Eddy. Right Kardaslurden Yiller once Tek Motorlu Bur Ukak Ukerdugunu Idia Eddy. Gustav Whitehead and Bu Idealari Ankak, 1935 Yolinda Sidai Alinmus ve Aristorilmaster. O zamandan beri konu hakkında onlarca farklı kalizma ve araştırma yapılmış ve kitap haline getirilmiştir. Nihayet 24 Ekim 2013 Foot T38 Hava Terasizinin ortak açıklamasıyla Gustav Whitehead'in iddiaları yalanlandı. Unfortunately, it is not possible to say with certainty who invented the airplane and when. Because inventions are like that. In the same period, people in different parts of the world are thinking similar things and coming up with some products. As a result, no one can easily say that this is my invention. Official records write the Wright brothers. What makes things even more interesting is that the Wright brothers were not the first to hold a pilot's license. The first official flight to the United States was made by Canadian Glenn H. Curtiss on June 4, 1908, on an airplane called the June Bug, which took off without outside assistance. Glenn H. Curtiss holds pilot's license number 1, while the Wright brothers hold pilot license number 4 and 5. Gustav Whitehead's work inspired the Wright brothers to approach the subject objectively, and Alberto Santos Dumont built a successful prototype, enabling Glenn H. Curtiss to make the first official flight. What remains for us is to show respect to these enlightened minds. We answered the questions of who invented the airplane, which is today's indispensable means of transportation, and when we talked about some important names that left their mark on aviation history. Who do you think invented the airplane? You can share your thoughts on the subject in the comments. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe my channel, support me. Goodbye.